Welcome to Ill-Equipped History, where two best friends, that's us, tell you something that happened in history, and nobody told us we could do this, and even if someone told us to stop, we wouldn't. So,
yes.
I'm Emileigh, and this is Morgan.
Hi.
Hi. What a rambly intro. Going on in my brain.
A little one of our more unhinged ones.
Just a little bit. I have had a glass of wine, so.
There we go.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is. So, how are you?
I'm well. I hung out with a friend today by the pool, and
Sweet.
all of the rain that hit Nashville, missed us. It was, in some areas, apparently, it was,
went around?
Downpouring. It
Beautiful.
blew right over us. So, we
Beautiful.
saw the
I
clouds.
love that.
We saw them. And we're like, well, it's not thundering, so we'll probably be okay. And it never rained on us. So, yeah, it was nice.
Nice.
And now my skin feels crispy.
Crisp.
Because there was no shade at this pool at all.
Well, you had that big old hat on, though.
I did have my big old hat on. But my legs are all... I didn't get sunburned, though.
No.
But I definitely got sun exposure.
Speaking of skin, I have poison ivy again.
For the love of God.
I don't even know where. I was in the car the other day, and I was like, huh, look at that. I haven't even been close to the woods, so, I don't know.
It must have just, jumped the walls.
It had to have. And I'm also convinced that I am now even more of an old lady, because I cooked dinner today with plants that I grew in my own garden.
Ooh.
And I ironed a shirt today, which
Look
I
at
don't
you.
think I've done in 2 years.
Look at you.
You might as well put on a prairie dress and go
A
out
little
into
bonnet.
the wilderness. Yeah. Go ride the Oregon Trail.
Die of dysentery.
I never played that.
Me neither.
I don't know how we missed it. I feel like everyone else in our grade got to play that, and then we didn't.
I feel like people played it at school.
Yeah. How do we miss that class? I feel like every class that I get, I end up missing out on something, in high school. Because even my chemistry class, I wasn't even in a lab. We didn't do any lab stuff.
Oh, that's weird.
Because we were being taught by a biology teacher.
Oh. So I was like, I had chemistry in that school, and I had a lab. But
yeah, it was just us.
We did have different teachers, so that makes sense.
Yeah. The teacher didn't even know chemistry. We were all learning together.
I know who your teacher was, and I'd never had him as a teacher, but we were, cool somehow. I don't even know how, but, he knew who I was, and I was like, hey!
He was a chill guy.
He was super chill.
Anyway, my brain is still, sorry guys, my son had his tonsils out last week, and I'm still kind of
struggling through
doing
that.
Okay, but we've had a rough go at it the past week and a half.
Oh,
so.
Bless him.
I know. The worst part is, this is the time in every child's life they are allowed to have unlimited ice cream and popsicles and all that other stuff. And you know what? The boy doesn't have a sweet tooth. He doesn't want any of it.
Oh, no.
So he's like, no, I'm good. I'm like, I have a whole thing of chocolate ice cream. And he's like, can I just have a dad tax? Which is what we call sparkling waters. I'm like, I guess so. Sure, buddy.
Yeah. Bless him.
Eat something.
Just suck on an ice cube.
Literally anything. Just eat it. It's like, I think you've lost 4 pounds because you won't eat ice cream. What kind of conversation is this with a 6-year-old?
Now that I think about it, he really doesn't eat a lot of sweets.
No?
He just wants food.
Yeah, he wants food. He would rather have fruit over a dessert, which is great.
Yeah, that's
except
awesome.
for situations like this.
Yeah.
My daughter, on the other hand, I think has eaten all the pudding in the house. All of it. It's like, how do you eat so much pudding? And ice cream, and she wants cookies and fruits. She is a sweet tooth. The whole girl is a sweet tooth. Yeah, anyway, enough about my children's woes.
Let's do our skit.
Let's do the skit. It's 1954. A woman is standing on a boat in the clear waters of the Silver River. She is distracted, looking over the side of the boat at David, who is doing something in the water, and doesn't notice that a monster is coming at her.
David, hurry up. I'm almost done.
All of a sudden, the monster comes up and grabs Kay, then jumps off the side of the boat and drags her into the deep water.
Kay! No!
And cut! Perfect shot, everyone. Someone tell the gill man to take a quick break and make sure he's ready for the next shot. He's going to be under for at least 3 minutes next time. And Julie, you're doing great. The next shot is the hunting scene, so I'll call you when we need you.
Great. I'll see y'all in a bit.
The Creature from the Black Lagoon is just one of the many movies filmed at Silver Springs Park. And the movies aren't even the coolest part of today's story. Yay!
Cool.
Have you ever heard of Silver Springs?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I hadn't either. Truly, honestly, until my mama was like, well, my mama and my uncle were like, hey, instead of going to the alligator farm on family vacation, because normally we do like one big outing, because we've been to the alligator farm so many times in St. Augustine, they were like, let's go to Silver Springs. My mama and my uncle went, I think when my uncle was like 5 years old, and hadn't been since. And my uncle's turning like 60 this year. So It's been a while. And I was like, sounds good to me. I don't know what that is. So it's about an hour and a half from St. Augustine in Ocala, Florida. You're probably wondering why we're talking about a state park today.
A little bit, yeah.
I was going into this family outing thinking we're going to see some cool, really cool, like geographical things and say, oh, cool, wildlife, and then go home. But turns out there's a shit ton of history in this place.
Cool.
And I feel like it needs to be discussed. And, you know, maybe our silly little podcast can help grow its, people that go there.
Very cool. Hopefully, yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So it was Florida's first tourist attraction. Its first theme park.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So let's get into a little bit about the geographics as to why people would go. So it has springs. And Morgan, if you look at, it's the first colored picture under the black and white ones that are there. So you see the round body of water, and then it looks like it just goes. Yeah. It's almost like the water just stops. The water doesn't stop there. It starts there.
Oh, okay.
So the springs have so much water coming out of it. And that boat that's right there, for reference, fit our entire crew of 20.
Oh, wow.
In it. That's a big boat. There's enough water coming out of these springs at the top here that it creates the Silver River.
Oh, wow.
There are different magnitudes of springs. I'm not going to get into that. Just know that There's multiple springs within this, and this is just water coming up through limestone formations that cover pretty much all of Florida. And there's hundreds of springs across the state, but these include some of the deepest and largest ones. So the biggest one on this site pumps 550 million gallons of water a day. Morgan's got the stressed face.
I can't even.
That's the one spring.
That's a lot of water.
It's a lot of water. And it flows northward for 7 miles and dumps into the Ocklawaha River and eventually the St. John's, and then eventually it gets to the Atlantic Ocean. And that is Mammoth Spring, the one that has 550 million gallons.
Because it's big.
The Abyss, she big, mammoth.
Mm-hmm.
And it has this really cool like ledge to it. It's really cool. I will post pictures that I took while I was there, because we did do the glass bottom boat thingy, and y'all will get to see some of the cool things I saw, and we're going to talk about today. And another one of the springs is called the Abyss, and divers dove into it for 82 feet before they had to stop. And then they dropped a weighted line just to see when they could get to the end of it, right? They ran out of line at 280 yards.
Oh my God.
So they don't even know.
So it's more than like 700 feet, but they don't know exactly how deep it is?
Right.
That's terrifying.
Terrifying.
Don't like that.
Yeah. And in the upper part, more than just the Silver River alone, more than 30 springs have been identified. So yeah, the 550 million is the biggest one, but 30 of those, I think, if I'm remembering, and this is off of my memory from a couple weeks ago, the tour guide said that it's like 42% of Florida's water comes from this spring. Comes from Silver Springs.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a shit ton of water.
That's a lot of water.
Like, I think Mammoth Spring could provide water to, I think they said, like, Orlando for a day.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just so much. And not only is there a shit ton of the water is like 98.9% pure. You could drink it. If you've drank bottled spring water, that's what you've been drinking pretty much.
Oh, really? So is there like a collection facility somewhere in like Silver Springs?
I don't think there is there. And probably because it's like a state park or something like that. I don't think they get the water from that specific state park or from that spring, but pretty much all spring water is just that pure. And at this park, you can find 9-banded armadillos, white-tailed deer, wild boar, fox, alligators, fox squirrels, gopher tortoises, coyotes, bobcats, and black bears. Along with the shit ton of fish.
It sounds just like the description of the animals and the springs, and it sounds like it'd be a beautiful, beautiful wildlife place. Oh my God.
It is amazing. Let me I want to send you like a video or a picture from, so that's like a picture of the boats, and then you can see the springs in the background, and you can like paddleboard and kayak and stuff like that. You can't just like openly swim. I don't think they're going to get onto you if you fall off your paddleboard, but like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no active swimming going on.
Yeah, no active swimming. There are alligators in the water. We saw one. You don't want to be swimming. Isn't that so pretty?
That's beautiful. The palm
I did not
trees.
do a very good. I know. They're so cool.
It looks like almost swampy.
It is. It is kind of swampy, but the water is so clear. It looks like it's 2 feet deep, and like it's like 40 feet deep at some places.
Oh, wow.
It's just It's literally like looking through a bottle of water. It is clear.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You want to swim. You just can't.
I was saying, like, just this picture that you have in the show notes with, like, the deep, deep blue water that's, like, perfectly reflecting the sky.
Yeah.
I want to swim in that water real bad.
Real bad. And you see where the boat is over that, like, light blue area?
Mm-hmm.
That's Mammoth Spring.
Oh, okay.
So it's really cool because the seagrass that's in there gets to be, like, 2 feet long. And you can see what direction the water is coming up out of the ground. Because the grass just, like, lays down.
Oh, wow.
And, like, in the direction it's going.
Cool.
So it's all like, woo. I wish y'all could see me.
Woo. Woo. She's a wacky waving inflatable arm man.
Oh my god, I found one of those that somehow they got it to just wave one arm. And I think it's my favorite. Just, hey.
Come here.
So, hello. So, okay. I was about to say, I feel like I skipped something over. Let's go back, I don't know, 12,000 years.
Okay.
And people started inhabiting the area around 12,000 years ago. Can you imagine? These people probably thought this was the source of magic.
Probably,
all this water,
yeah.
Beautiful, clean, fresh water coming out of the ground. Literally, I thought this was crazy. One of the sources said that mastodons and giant sloths still walked the earth when people started inhabiting these springs.
It's crazy.
They found, like, knives and projectile points and other things that, like, coincide with hunter-gatherer lifestyles. Like, what the fuck?
Well, and am I wrong that 12,000 years ago is about when the Ice Age happened?
I think so. When did Ice Age happen? Man, Florida would be a good spot to be when the Ice Age happened.
Mm-hmm.
The most recent Ice Age was around 2.6 million years ago.
I feel like there's an Ice Age that happened when humans were around.
The last glacial period, which peaked around 20,000 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. In the 1500s, the Timucua, if I said that wrong, I'm so sorry, tribe started inhabiting the area. They called it the Ocali. And then also around that same time, Spanish explorers started showing up in the 1500s.
Mm-hmm.
There are records show that Juan Ponce de Leon was there in 1513.
I was literally just thinking, Ponce de Leon.
Ponce de Leon. I like how he is just known by his last name.
Mm-hmm.
But growing up, I always thought his full name was Ponce de Leon.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. That's just his last name. Like, I always forget the Juan at the front. So in 1539, Hernando de Soto and his conquistadors invaded the area in search of wealth and goods and other things that the Spanish explorers were doing at the time. And the Spanish are well armed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the tribe was like, GTFO, get the fuck out. They managed to hang on to it.
Okay.
They did lose the area to the Seminole tribe. And they are still, the Seminoles, we'll talk about them a little more later, are still very active in the area. And from, I mean, if you want to hear a lot more about Seminoles, you can go to the St. Augustine episode. But they are the only tribe to consider themselves not conquered because they never, like, gave in. And so I applaud them for that. So we're going to fast forward just a little bit to the 1820s. Florida entered into the United States around this time, and it started to attract travelers because now there's free movement between, these states, and what else was there to do? Let's be honest. So they would start from the Ocklawawa River. God, that one, it trips me up every time. And they would, using like pole rafts, go up the like 5.2 miles to get to the springs and see everything. And that was around the 1820s. So in 1834, on October the 23rd, the Seminole tribe met in council at Silver Springs to discuss the demands of the United States for their removal to the west.
Mm-hmm.
And a very, well then, obscure sub-chief swayed the council into going against the removal. Do you know what that sub-chief's name was?
Was it, that guy?
Yes. Osceola?
Yes, thank you.
The guy that got his head cut off?
Yes.
Yes, it was. It was Osceola. And this was really the beginning of not only one of the Seminole Wars, the one between 1835 and 42, but it was his kind of rise into power. And he famously went back to the Americans and stabbed the treaty with a knife, and that was like the symbol of fuck you, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And he then pretty much led the Seminoles into the war. He did unfortunately pass. It was in 1838. And if you want to hear the full story about that, we talked all about it in the St. Augustine episode, so go check that one out. So by 1850, Silver Springs became a commercial distribution center for Central. Are you laughing at me right now?
I am. Just casually popping open a bottle of wine. Just like talking about Silver Springs.
I was out. I'm parched. Oh, that is dry. Oh my gosh. I don't think that helped my thirst. Anyway, so Silver Springs became a commercial distribution center for the Central Florida area. And they would use, again, pole barges and then later on steamships to go back and forth. And these plantations started popping up along the rivers, or the river, and they grew vegetables, tobacco, oranges. I mean, they had it loaded down with cotton and lumber, other, non-perishable goods. And Hubbard H. Hart established the Hart Line, and it was a stagecoach that connected between Palatka and Silver Springs and Ocala and Tampa. And in 1860, they hired James Burt, who brought in the steamboat. So now this is not for, distributing goods. This is to get people into the area. So even more tourism boomed. So, right, and remember, the 1860s was right at the end of the Civil War, was the late 1860s. And I guess people just had enough of the shit they saw during the Civil War, and they wanted to go do fun things now, and this is one of them. So people started flocking to this area. And this was really funny. So the Lucas Line Steamboat Company also started up. Well, then the Hart Line wanted to compete with the Lucas Line for privilege of transporting, the passengers.
Right.
So at some point they just started racing each other. And this river is not that wide. So I can only imagine what that was like. Being a passenger and your boat is racing another boat.
It's like Grand Theft Boat.
Yeah. Grand Theft Marine.
There we go. That's better.
Yeah. And then the railroads entered. And again, it became... When the railroads entered, people just going through on the trains, Silver Springs became one of the, like, mandatory stops on your grand tour of Florida. Like, you have to stop there.
Okay.
I'm not sure up until this point who owned it. It almost seems like nobody owned it. Because like, people are just showing up.
Yeah. Just, like, see, like, the wildlife and the nature and the springs and stuff.
People just, like, show up and then leave. And it doesn't seem very organized at this point. So, in 1878, Hallam Jones and Philip Morrell took a rowboat and cut a hole in the bottom and put a piece of glass in the bottom and started showing people the river with a glass bottom boat. And this was when, like, the entire enterprise was born. Okay. They have been doing the glass bottom boat tours since 1878.
That's wild.
Yeah. And the best part is that, I mean, I guess it's not the best part because this is kind of sad, but the boat that they built is still there. It just is kind of on the bottom of the spring, like it sank. But it's there.
But it's there.
But it's there, and I have a picture of it. It might, I don't know, like you could see but it was like just a square cut out.
Well, if the water's as clear as you were saying, like you could probably see it like perfectly, right?
But you can see like at least the edge of the boat there. Okay. So they cut like a big square. They put a window. It's like it kind of reminds me of what's that commercial where they took a boat and they put a screen door in the bottom of it? The Flex Seal commercials.
Oh, yeah.
That's giving me that vibe, but better. So, in the early 1900s, the first film was made at Silver Springs, and this was The Seven Swans. It was filmed in 1917, and it was a silent movie starring Richard Barthelmess and Marguerite Clark, for those who are old movie enthusiasts. I do not know who those people are.
I've never heard of them.
I haven't either. So, in 1924, Colonel W.C. Davidson, or Shorty Davidson, and Carl Ray, I will be referring to them as Ray and Davidson, or Davidson and Ray, because they were always together. Mm-hmm. They acquired the rights to the spring for a 50-year lease in 1924.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah. It's crazy to me that they filmed a movie there before anyone even really, like, owned it.
It's just wilderness, and now, like, yeah, let's make a movie here.
Yeah. Reminds me of that, remember in high school when we watched that zombie movie that, like, people just made with, like, a camcorder out in the woods? They just went into the woods somewhere. It was one of the very many zombie movies we
I was just thinking, like, we watched so many zombie movies.
So many.
I'm trying to remember.
All so bad.
Mm-hmm. I think I vaguely remember it.
Wait, do you remember the one where she was, like, running from the zombies and she jumped in a convertible and just sat there?
Yeah. And, like, just sat there and screamed while the zombies ran up to her and then they ripped her apart. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So during this time, they just got rights to this now park, I guess. People are just using it for whatever. This was the beginning of, like, its peak times. And it was the country's most visited, like, theme park. It was one of the top theme parks.
So, was the theme, like there was a movie studio as well, or?
Nope. People literally just went out there to film these movies for the wilderness
Okay.
So it's not entire movies were filmed there, but if you needed, and we'll get more into like the underwater scenes later, but they filmed a lot of underwater scenes. If you needed a jungle theme, this was very accessible and it looked jungle-ish.
Okay.
So that's why they were going there for these. I don't know what exactly for the Seven Swans they filmed, like what parts, but it's all for like outdoor scenes.
Okay.
So in 1929, the first addition that they made to the park was Ross Allen's Reptile Institute. And Ross Allen was a herpetologist from Pennsylvania. And this institute would go on expeditions in the surrounding Ocala National Forest and just yoink some snakes and alligators and turtles and other various reptiles, just to yoink them out of the woods. And they would keep them there. They would display them, study them. The more successful attractions of this institute was Ross would do daily shows, and he would feed the alligators, and he would wrestle the alligators.
Oh, okay.
And then he would milk snakes for their venom.
Like for a show? Like for an audience?
Well, he would do it for an audience, yes, but then he did discover new methods for creating anti-venom, and that would get shipped worldwide.
Okay, well, that's
so
good.
He was doing good things, and they were studying, but please refer to the pictures and go to the first one. This is straight up Allen wrestling an alligator. Why does it look like he's trying to make the alligator fly?
I'm trying to get my head. Is this underwater or like on land?
Yes.
It's underwater? Oh my god.
Yes.
He was wrestling alligators in their domain?
I think so. I mean, he's got that like
he's got
mask
like
on.
like the goggles, maybe a snorkel. It looks like it's underwater, but that poor alligator, its hands are like behind, its arms are behind its back, and it's like, ah.
I believe I can fly. I know. It's wild.
Oh, I see. Ross Allen versus alligator from movie of Florida Silver Springs.
Yeah.
Wow.
Florida Silver Springs. Yep. So then you can scroll up to the next picture, the one above it. In 1934, I have feelings about this one. So Ray and Davidson built a replica Native American village, and it was staffed entirely of Seminole Native Americans who lived and worked in this village, and they would make authentic clothing, canoes, food, and other handcrafted items. There is a lot that nowadays we would probably see as problematic with this.
I can see that, yeah.
A lot. I don't know if like they were making all these clothing and canoes and stuff for money for themselves to keep. I don't know that. So I'm gonna hold opinions about at least that part of it because I don't know. Mm-hmm. But that did stick around for a bit there.
Okay.
And in the late 1930s, Colonel Toohey was brought in to make a jungle tour. Because again, the landscape looks very jungle-ish. Mm-hmm. And this included speedboat rides around the shorelines of the Silver River. And Colonel Toohey thought it would be a wonderful idea to bring in and just super casually place on one of the small islands a colony of monkeys.
For realism, I guess.
They thought it would enhance his jungle cruise ride.
That I see no way of this to go wrong.
Yeah, of course, because, monkeys can't swim, right?
They wouldn't be considered an invasive species, no.
They straight up came back the next day, realized all the monkeys had just, like, Michael Phelps'd across the water, and just started, they just wreak havoc. They're still there.
Mm-hmm.
The descendants of these monkeys are still there. And they, like, apparently a couple months ago, blocked everyone from getting into the park. They had to, like, get foghorns and make them go back into the park. So we were, like, blocking the entrance.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Those poor monkeys. They didn't ask for this.
Yeah. Oh, but they're allowed to stay in the park now. I think they're doing, light research on, like, how they, adapt and survive to, like, the new area. But, like, they're like, well, I guess this is your home now.
Welcome, I guess.
Sorry. And, yeah. This one, I'm very upset that I missed. Because it's not there anymore. But in the 50s, they added the Prince of Peace art installation and Tommy Bartlett's Deer Ranch, where you could go, like, pet baby deer and bunnies.
Oh, that's so cute.
I want a pet baby deer. So I would fawn all over them. And in 1953, they brought in Sam and Vernon Jarvis to open the Carriage Cavalcade, and that's where they displayed a bunch of different, like, vehicles from history.
Okay.
And they continued to, like, update the museum with, like, new transportation technology, like, throughout the 60s, and at one point it had a replica rocket ship.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool. Totally unrelated to anything.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense with, like, the nature that's there, or the jungle tour, or the movies that are filmed there. Cars. Rocket ship.
And a rocket. But you know what? Why not, right? No one's telling them no.
It's the 50s, baby.
Doing what we want. Everything's futuristic.
Yeah.
A side note, I love the 50s, like, idea of what the future looked like.
I know. I was just thinking that myself. Like, there's nothing like the 1950s futurism aesthetic.
Yeah.
I love it. There's actually, super side note, there's a hotel I stayed at in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And it's a boutique hotel, and I can't even remember what it's called because I only stayed there for, like, one night. But the entire theme is, like, 1950s retro space. It literally has a moon, and it's got, like, pictures of astronauts. The whole thing is, like, moon themed, but, like, 1950s aesthetic.
This is such your vibe.
I know!
That is your aesthetic.
I was just Googling hotels, and I just stumbled upon it, and I was planning a trip with a friend, and I was like, do you want to stay at this hotel? It's only like $100 a night, because it was January in the middle of the week in St. Louis, and she was like, let's do it, and I was like, okay. It was so cool.
I'm so jealous.
Well, we need to go to St. Louis, and we can stay at this hotel.
Yes.
I'll figure out what it's called.
Okay. Did you ever watch Jimmy Neutron growing up?
I did.
I loved Jimmy Neutron. We had the video game. It was awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
Were you thinking about like the vibe of the show? It's like retro.
Yeah.
Literally Retroville, and like everything's like
it
sci-fi.
Just every time I think of like 50s like futuristic vibe, I think of what's that really old cartoon? Has the robot house cleaner?
Jetsons.
Yes, and I think of Jimmy Neutron. Like those two cartoons are just the vibe. So, speaking of aesthetics, let's move on to something very aesthetic. So, In 1955, a fire broke out and burned pretty much all of the buildings that were there, and they were all of the Spanish style.
Aww.
So they have no idea. They have no idea what started the fire. It was the 50s. It probably could have been anything electrical. So they decided that they needed to get an architect to design new buildings for them. They're like, you know what? Might as well start with a clean slate. Let's get a cool new vibe going for us. So they selected Victor A. Lundy, and he was an architect from Sarasota. Lundy had served in World War II as a replacement soldier after D-Day in 1944. And do you know what he spent most of his time doing? Doodling.
Okay.
Him was doodling.
Okay.
And he said, quote, "I never listened. I was busy sketching."
That's cute.
Not only did he survive the war, but his 8 sketchbooks survived the war.
That's incredible.
8. And they are now in the Library of Congress.
Wow, that's amazing.
Because he turned into a very important person in the architecture world. So after the war, he went and earned his architecture degree from Harvard. Cash.
Good for him.
Good for him. And then he opened his own firm in 1954 in Sarasota. He was instrumental in developing the post-war style known as Sarasota Modern. So, just please, just Google Sarasota Modern for me real quick.
Okay.
Just architecture. And then look at the images. So you'll see a lot of geometric shapes. You'll see open roofs, large windows, wide windows, very modern.
Very square.
But also, square, modern. And you'll see the roofs have like, sometimes they like point in and like, you know what I'm saying?
It's very geometric for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so he was one of the main people that helped develop this style.
Okay.
So the building that is still currently there at Silver Springs is in that style. It's a really cool building and it fits the space perfectly.
Okay, cool.
So good for him. And you can find his projects all around the world. He was featured in the 1966 World's Fair, IBM headquarters he helped develop, and like there was a whole big old list that I was not about to get into.
Mm-hmm.
He would go on to win 2 awards for the design of the Silver Springs buildings.
Oh, cool.
And it was a recreation category by Progressive Architecture in 1956 and the Award of Merit in the American Institute of Architects in 1957.
Very cool. It looks like, I'm still going through the pictures, it looks like a lot of schools in Florida, or at least in Sarasota, were built in this style. Like, it's a lot of open, like, pathways with, like covered pathways.
Yeah.
I'm seeing. Okay. Neat.
Yeah. It's super neat. And some more things that they've done over the years. So they've had a jungle safari Jeep ride, the World of Bears, various wilderness trails, which they still have a lot of trails, a carousel, they had a petting zoo, a fountain show, a lighthouse ride, and a botanical garden.
Nice.
And there's an old house on the property, and I guess they were trying to like try new things. In 2012 and 2013, they decided they were going to put on some concerts. So just to name a few, they had Merle Haggard, Styx, Glenn Campbell, Joe Diffie and Sammy Kershaw, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, and Josh Turner.
What year?
2012 and 2013.
No, I did hear that. It's just really funny to hear about like these artists from like the 70s and 80s and also modern day. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts and Josh Turner.
Yeah. Freaking Joe Diffie.
Merle Haggard. Wow.
John Deere Green. Like, our tour guide was talking about them, and the way he spoke about them, it was like a long time ago. And no, it was just like 12 years ago.
Yeah, I was about to say, it was like 11, 12 years ago, which is still really weird to think about. 2012 was...
I know. Well, that was after we graduated high school, so let's sink in. So why... Not only is it just a really cool place to go, but like, why was it so popular? That all the success is basically thanks to Ray and Davidson. And because they had not only continuous improvement, I mean, who would have thought of half of these things that they've had at this place?
Not me.
But, yeah, seriously. They had crazy marketing ads, like unprecedented for the time. So in 1920, they started this huge postcard campaign, and it had like brightly colored, fantastic, beautiful images. I have one of those in the pictures.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Doesn't that make you want to go?
Yeah, it's beautiful. And this was in the 1920s?
Yeah. I mean, it might be a little... That's when they started the campaign.
Okay.
I mean, it very well could have been 30s, 40s, but I mean, you got to remember that it was before 55, because that is not the building in the background.
Yeah.
In the 30s, they hired Bruce Mozart, and he is known as the, quote, father of underwater photography for his work that he did at the Springs. He was the resident photographer there. He developed and perfected many of the underwater filming and photography techniques. And his work helped the postcards, of course, made brochures, made it to magazines, newspapers, and billboards across the country. They had, in the 50s, they had billboards all the way to Maine.
Wow.
7 million promotional materials at the time.
That's crazy.
To Maine. For y'all who are not in the United States, getting from northern central Florida to Maine would probably be 24 hours of drive time.
Mm-hmm. I was about to say at least 20.
At least 20 to 24 hours of drive time. We're not talking pee breaks, staying the night somewhere. They had billboards where it would be a multi-day event to get to this place.
I'm gonna do
and it was on
searching.
Yes, please do. So it was on par with like what Disney does now.
Maine to Silver Springs, according to my Apple Maps, 22 hours 33 minutes. It's over 1,400 miles.
That's today too. Think about in the 50s when cars were not that fast.
Oh, and this route's having you go through New York and Washington, D.C. So there's another route that takes you through...
Does it take you 95 the whole way up? I mean, because you could take 75, but doesn't 75 take you more towards like Chicago?
Yeah, this takes you... It's 95 literally the entire way. And there's another route that is 20 hours. But there's tolls.
Oh. How much is that 2 hours worth to you?
All the tolls. It's really just through, like, New Jersey. And, like, the tiniest, like, little corner through Pennsylvania. Oh, man, it takes you through Philadelphia, too. You're hitting all the big cities. You're going through New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Richmond. Really close to Savannah.
Should we take this drive? Should we do a road trip? An ill-equipped road trip right now. Let's get in the car.
Let's drive to Silver Springs and then drive to Maine.
Okay, got it. You come to me. We'll carpool to Silver Springs. then we'll go to Maine, and then we'll come back. We'll stay with Corey, and everything will be fine.
Yeah. If we had like 2 weeks to do this, maybe.
Yeah, because I would want to stay like at least a day in every like good city we got to. Yeah.
And at least do something like cool and fun.
Oh, so guys, we need more listeners for the funding.
Yes.
To make this happen.
Fund our road trip.
Please. Listen, we will hit up every quirky little tiny, because remember, at the very beginning of this podcast, why do we get in? My dream is to hit up all the quirky museums on a road trip.
Yes.
So I'll do it for y'all. We will do it.
Yes. Give us your money. Patreon.com/illequippedhistory.
For $5 a month. We'll
get
give
access to stickers and our bonus episodes.
Make our dreams come true for you.
Yeah. It's all for you.
Oh my God. So speaking of like documenting things on road trips, what a good segue. Over 250, I feel like when I was there, they said closer to 300 movie shows, documentary scenes have been filmed at this location.
Cool.
So, like, all the original Tarzan movies.
Oh, really?
Were there. And the Tarzan ones in 1932 is really what put Silver Springs on the map when it came to movie filming. Because they had done the one before. They had done a short, like, kind of 80 underwater short films at Silver Springs. And that's kind of those, they weren't like movies or whatever, but they were very short. So they had done those before. But Tarzan, the Ape Man in 1932 is really what got, you know, the bigger movies' attention.
Okay.
So then in 34, and this is not even all of them, they did Tarzan and His Mate. And then in 1941, a movie called Moon Over Miami was filmed. And you can see the actors take a ride in a diving bell into Mammoth Spring. Oh. And apparently in the background of this scene, you can see the glass bottom boats and everything. They're like
really?
In the background.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So Creature from the Black Lagoon, which was I haven't edited it yet, but it's probably going to be an interesting little skit. So that's what we were referring to. Anyway, if that didn't come through. So it starred Julia Adams and Richard Carlson. It was originally in 3D. Did not know that. But
oh wow.
The actor, tell me how this is humanly possible. Like, what the fuck? The actor casually who wore the suit could just hold his breath for like 4 minutes underwater. I'm not exaggerating. Could hold his breath for 4 minutes. He did not have oxygen. He was just fucking around down there. He would literally swim down there and just wait for them to say action. That's
insane.
What? And I watched a couple of like the shorts, like sections of the movie trying to like, you know, write the skit.
Yeah.
And he's under there doing flips and trying to grab at her feet and like literally swimming with a woman in his arms and like in this suit. It's so cool and concerning. But in their little tiny museum, they have one of the original like full creature suits.
Oh, cool. That's really neat.
Yeah. And then, let's see, there were a couple others throughout the years. I literally cannot get into all of them.
Yeah. Well, you said there was like over 300, right?
Yeah. So many. So there was one, Don't Give Up the Ship, and that was starring Jerry Lewis and Dina Morell. And the crew left behind a sunken boat that apparently you can still see. which I think is really funny that the name of the movie is Don't Give Up the Ship, and they literally gave up the ship. They gave it up.
It wasn't the Vasa, was it?
I don't think the Vasa could have made it the 5 miles to the... I mean, it was shallow enough, though. You still would have seen the mast if it sank. So, Sea Hunt, the television show with Mike Nielsen, filmed more than 100 episodes there.
Oh, wow.
This one really popularized scuba diving, when scuba diving wasn't really that popular at that point. I mean, like, the picture, the promotional picture for it was, like, him in scuba gear. Like,
okay.
So, it's really cool that, like, it got popular in this space. And in the 60s, the I Spy series, for one of their episodes, they had these, like, 12 statues, and I think they were all, like, the gods. Like, you've got Poseidon, and you've got all the other ones. I can't think of them right now. But they ended up, like, at the end of the series, they were like, okay, well, we're gonna take our statues now. And Silver Springs was like, but what if you maybe didn't take them all?
Mm-hmm.
So there are 3 statues in the Mammoth Spring now, and they just chill there. And they have a couple in the museum so you can, like, see them. But they're, like, 8 feet tall.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they're huge. They're really cool. And then we've got some more. We've got Never Say Never Again. And I'm sorry, but that's Sean Connery.
I was about to say, isn't that a James Bond film?
Yes! It was Sean Connery as 007. It was the remake of the 4th James Bond film.
Okay, cool.
And Smokey and the Bandit Part 3 in 1985 was filmed
Part 3?
Part 3. I didn't know there was 3 of them. I've seen the first one. So they've also had TV specials for, like, National Geographic, Discovery Channel. They had commercials from Mercury Motors, Johnson & Johnson, DuPont, and Dean Witter. And this one's weird, but okay. Military training films on jungle warfare have also been shot at the park.
I guess that would make sense with, like the Vietnam War was in the 60s,
yeah.
So.
Yeah. And, I mean, you're actively trying to fight the monkeys there, so... Because they're not letting you in the park. What to do if a monkey gets in your way? Foghorn. So, now the 60s. I know we kind of went off the rails a little bit. It's the 60s now. And in 1962, Ray and Davidson sold Silver Springs to ABC Paramount Broadcasting, which I guess that makes sense. They were filming all those things there, but they tried to keep the park successful, but couldn't. And it was for a couple different reasons. So they didn't have the management style and, like, that creative spark that Ray and Davidson had. Even if the two of them maybe weren't always the most, I guess, politically correct, for lack of better term.
Yeah.
They did come up with a lot of different ideas to keep people coming in, and ABC Paramount just couldn't. And Disney then came into the Orlando area, and this is only like 70 miles from Orlando.
Yeah.
So in 1972, when Disney came in and the interstate started bypassing a lot of these smaller attractions, because this place is kind of in the middle of nowhere. It took us an hour and a half to get from St. Augustine there. It started just getting forgotten. And by 1975, pretty much all of the attractions at Silver Springs were closed or demolished. And in 1985, the state of Florida purchased the 5,000 acres of land that surrounded it, not the springs itself, but the 5,000 acres around it. And then that same year, ABC sold Silver Springs to Florida Leisure Attractions.
Okay.
So then in 1987, Florida, the state of Florida, built the Silver River Museum and Environmental Education Center on that surrounding land. In 1993, the state acquired the springs, but kept the springs itself operating privately under a lease. And then in 1999, they built the ranger station, campground, kayak launch. And then in 2013, so it took them, 20 years, the state took over the operations because declining profit, environmental problems, and proclaimed it a state park. So I guess now there's probably a lot of things you can't do on it. But
gotcha.
There is one more thing I do want to talk about, and that is it's the same park, but it's not the same park.
Okay.
So during the Jim Crow era of the park, because the park's been there since, before that, we're talking Florida in the South during segregation time. Not the best place to be if you were literally anything but white. But Ray and Davidson decided to add a section down the river, not at the very top of the springs, but still on Silver Springs or Silver River, for the African American community. And I want to say, it's because they saw that they weren't being able to do the things that we were doing, so they gave them a space to do that. And they did, but it was probably I see an opportunity for money here. But at the time, there really weren't that many, even just beaches that they could go to. And they were kind of few and far between. So I think this is what bothers me the most, is that they would hire black captains to pilot the steamboats. And that is back from the Hart line, from the very beginning, 1800s, because they knew the river well. And they couldn't, even when it became a park and Ray and Davidson ran it, they couldn't even bring their own families
to their job.
Yeah, black visitors could come and walk on the grounds, but they could not participate in any attractions. What the... it makes me so mad. Except on a one designated day for them. Once a year, they were allowed to do the things. And Davidson often referred to the workers as, and I'm so sorry, my N-words, which is...
Yeah.
So, the boat captains got really fed up, and they were like, I can't bring my family to this. What? Why? So they did find another solution. They opened Paradise Park, about a mile down on the river. And even though I feel why it opened wasn't, the best, reasoning-wise,
yeah,
it was amazing. So they offered the same glass-bottom boats, similar attractions, petting zoos, the jungle cruises, reptiles. They had softball fields, beach. They had a dancing pavilion with a jukebox. And
that's cool.
Yeah, and you can see the pictures here. I do want to talk about one of these black and white pictures. Not the one with the girls on the sign, the one below it, but they would have beauty contests every year, and you would be Miss Paradise Park, and that's what we're looking at here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was about to say, beauty... the women in this picture are drop dead gorgeous. I literally been staring at them they're so beautiful.
Okay. I looked at them and I was like, damn, those are some fine women. But look at all the women in the audience. None of them are happy looking at and look at all the men. All the men are smiling.
They're smiling. Yeah.
I just thought it was funny.
There's a woman that's like in the front row, and she doesn't look super thrilled to be there. Maybe she was. Maybe it was just like the moment of that picture, but
yeah. I just thought it was funny. Literally, none of the women except the ones on stage are smiling, and all the men are like having the time of their life.
Yeah.
What the fuck? So when when desegregation happened, they pretty much just were like, okay, well, we don't need this anymore. And to quote the source, they didn't integrate it. They just closed it down. The community was really upset about it. A lot of people said, why don't you just open it to everybody? But they closed it down.
Yeah.
And at some point, somebody went down there and bulldozed all the buildings. They just closed it.
That sucks. Like, why not? Like, instead of having it like a segregated place, why not just like, oh, here's a whole nother like access point to the park? Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any
sense.
And
a lot of the people that would frequent Paradise Park now they're allowed to participate in all the things at Silver Springs, but you can change the laws overnight, but you can't change people's mindset overnight. And they were being, again, still just ostracized by the other people there, and they just stopped going.
Well, that really sucks.
It's bullshit. Absolutely bullshit. So, I mean, I felt like I needed to say, because it's part of it.
Yeah. No, it's really important to talk about.
I have mixed feelings. Again, it's like, I hate I hate that it was segregated.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that for, how long was it open? It was like 1949 to 1967.
It's like 18 years, yeah.
Yeah. For those 18 years, these people had a place to go and have fun and have community, and it should have never
Florida
had to come to that, but like, see, it's mixed.
It's weird because, like, I totally understand what you're saying. Like, the fact that they had to have their own separate place that was segregated
is ick.
Is problematic. But they also, at the same time, had a place where they could enjoy nature and have fun and have a good time.
I just wish they would have left it open, because how cool would it have been at some point? It was just a mile. Like, you could have connected those at some point.
Yeah. There's no reason why it couldn't.
No. So yeah, that's what I've got on Silver Springs.
Well, that was very informative. And I didn't know anything about Silver Springs, so.
Yeah, I literally went in there and was like, pretty nature. Oh my God, this happened, and this happened, and this happened here, and that happened here. What the fuck?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I highly suggest going. Because it's a state park, it's really cheap to get into. It's awesome. $2.
Oh, wow.
Entry fee. And like there's like a 30-minute boat ride and like a 90-minute boat ride. And the 30-minute boat ride was like $13 a person.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
And they're awesome.
Okay.
And you can see everything. Literally, it looks like you're watching it on a TV, but you're like looking into it's so cool. And we were there, and I'll say, the boats look like they would cook you alive because there's no air conditioning or anything. We were there, and it was close to 100 degrees, and we were very comfortable in there.
Okay.
So, don't let the heat deter you.
I mean, it's Florida. It's hot.
Carried around what'd you expect? Poor Nick carried around a cooler on his like a soft side cooler the whole time. I'll post a picture of us. My face is like beet red because it was so hot just like walking around.
Oh yeah.
It was very cool though. It was very cool. Highly suggest it. There are paddle boards you could do. I'll post a map too. There's all sorts of things to do there, and Um, I still wish they had the little deer farm.
That's a bummer. I wonder if it's because, like,
Yeah.
deer are so nasty that they're like, maybe we shouldn't have people pet deer anymore.
Probably not. But they're so cute.
They are
Have
so
you ever pet a
cute.
deer?
No, I haven't. They're so cute.
This is like a core memory of mine. My uncle, when I was a child, had a friend who had a pet deer.
Aw.
And it had like a bright orange collar. I mean, it lived outside and stuff. But like, I like hugged it.
That's really
as
cute.
a child. Yeah.
Aww.
And it's probably why I keep wanting to adopt all the woodland creatures now.
Because you're just a Disney princess.
Yeah. Nick's grandparents up in New Hampshire, there's a neighborhood turkey and it lets you pet it.
That's really cute.
Yeah, it's a big old fat turkey and they're soft, by the way. They're very soft.
I've never pet a turkey. I've never had the opportunity. They're not really at petting zoos.
No. I wish they were though. I'm trying to think if I've gotten my hands on anything else. I guess the normal, like, snakes at the alligator farm, because that's normal.
Yeah.
No, I think that's about it. It's all the wildlife I've touched. That's rude.
I know. I was a kid, and my papa had caught a little garter snake, and I was super into snakes at the time. And I was, like, holding it, and it literally made a noise. And it, like, there was a bunch of white stuff all over my hand. And I was like, it pooped on me. And I cried. I was, like, 7. I didn't want to hold snakes after that, because I didn't want them to poop on me.
We had an assortment of animals growing up that, let's see, my dad found a scorpion once and we had that for a while. He found a lizard in the bathroom at work and we kept that. We named it John. And we had a turtle and a frog and we had a snake once and the snake bit my brother. It was his fault, though. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, okay, so maybe I come by my wildlife hoarding, honestly. Because we just saw an animal and would just
take
your mind out. Maybe we shouldn't have done that. It's fine.
You gave the animals loving homes.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We did have to let the snake go. Because my brother was very offended. He's the one that grabbed it by the tail end and not the back of the head like you're supposed to.
Yeah.
So.
Snakes are going to snake.
It's the snake's fault. Yeah. I'm a snake.
I'm a Philly snake. That is an internet callback.
Oh, I love it so much.
That video is like almost 20 years old. Like, that was like original YouTube.
Oh my God. Do you know what I pulled out of the woodwork the other day? Shoes. Oh my God, shoes.
Oh my God, shoes.
I showed it to my mother-in-law and she was like, what is this? I'm like, that is the internet 20 years ago. Is what
I literally based my humor off of this YouTube video.
Oh my God. Llamas with hats.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie the unicorn. Charlie.
Oh my God. I think, Carl, that kills people.
Oh man.
Oh my God. Okay, we should probably
let's do socials. Go. Yeah.
So okay, you can find us on Facebook,
Ill-Equipped History group and page.
I almost said Facebook again. Instagram
at Ill-Equipped History. I saw you make like the F noise with your mouth.
Yeah, my brain stopped for a second. Gmail.
Ill-equippedhistory@gmail.com.
TikTok.
At Ill-Equipped History.
Do you want to throw in YouTube now?
Yeah. Our YouTube channel's Ill-Equipped History.
Yeah. And Patreon.
Patreon.com/Ill-Equipped History.
Woo! $5 a month. You get stickers and stuff. And listen, Chris got a full-blown doodle because I was so excited that I doodled a pun on a note card for him. So
and
that's
we
worth
have
$5 right
another
there.
follower to shout out because we have a new
We
follower.
Drew.
Love you, Drew.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, Drew's my cousin. I'll see you at Christmas.
Which means I'll probably see him
anyway.
at Christmas too.
Yay!
Yay, love
Family
you so
reunion.
much, Drewy.
Dooby. Okay, so if you're ever around Ocala, Florida, go to Silver Springs. Just do it. You won't regret it.
Have fun at a state
Support
park.
our parks.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't get eaten by the alligator.
Yeah, don't
there
do
was
that.
one. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's lots.
So probably.
Also, don't get eaten by the bears or the monkeys or any of the other dangerous animals that are in Florida.
Yeah. Stay in the boat. Yeah. Don't go swimming.
Yeah. Even though the water
I know
looks
the water-
really, really nice.
Oh, and it's like a perfect 72 degrees. I mean, it would be so refreshing to just
that pure water.
Get
just
in.
dive right in and then immediately get eaten by an alligator.
Yeah.
This was
would
nice while it
almost be worth
lasted.
Yeah. This was nice.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.